open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year we gave more than...
Okay.
This is Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
Hello, Kentuckiana. I'm your special host, Dr. Lance Pearson of the Kentucky Liberty Caucus, as well as the Louisville Tea Party. You are on Kentucky's Voice. You're probably listening to us on 970 AM in the Louisville area. We also have a Facebook Live and a YouTube live stream. You can go to either of those platforms, Facebook or YouTube, and search for Kentucky's Voice to get access to that. You'll have video to go along with this audio that the people on the radio are listening to. We also do a TV rebroadcast. That rebroadcast happens at 12:30, at 4 p.m., and at 8 p.m. usually. You'll find that on, if you have Spectrum, you'll find that on Channel 21, but check your guide. You know, not always. When I try to find the show, sometimes it'll be different programming, but give it a shot. Check your TV guide on that. We do want to make the pitch that this is a listener-supported conservative outpost of thought and talk, conservative talk in the Louisville area. If you want to support us, you can do that a couple of different ways. One is to go to the website kyvoice.org, kyvoice.org. That will have links to all of the different information. We'll also have some interesting background material on there, but there's a button on there that says donate. That's one way to donate. Just follow that link and then enter the information, credit card number, all that stuff to try to support us. You can also text KY Voice, KY space voice to 53555. If during the show you want to text in, you can do that at 502-571-0970. All right, that's all the housekeeping that we need to do. This was a very busy week in politics. Most interestingly, perhaps, was Wednesday of this just past week. President Trump actually visited the Bluegrass State. He had a little bit of a rally where he talked about some economic programs that he's promoting, and really he was doing it in order to try to campaign against Congressman Thomas Massie, who, if you listen to the show, you know I'm a very ardent supporter of. If sometime between now and the primary I get in an auto accident, I'll build a robot so it can take me in and vote for that guy. So obviously I'm not going to be supporting Ed Gowron, but we do want to keep our listeners informed. So we've got at least one clip. Producer, do we have a clip of Ed Gowron at that? Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and play that clip. I think this is about 30 seconds out of his 2 minutes that Trump allowed him to talk and pitch himself.
I hope the fake news gets this. Tom Massie stands with the ladies of The View. Tom Massie stands with the ladies of The View. Mr. President, we stand with you. Fight, fight, fight! USA! USA!
I'm telling you, that is the greatest candidate.
You get the idea. That was not us replaying that. That was him stumbling over his applause lines, repeating that silly statement about the ladies of The View. By the way, Thomas Massie has never been on The View. I think President Trump's been on maybe 6 or 8 times on that TV show. So it's just a silly talking point. The man is not a great candidate. That doesn't mean, however, that this isn't going to be a very competitive race. Thomas Massie's campaign immediately followed up that kind of goofy speech by Ed Gowron with this clip, if we've got that from our producer.
And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House. Fight, fight, fight! Yeah! right.
So Massey does have a very good internet presence. So his campaign basically took a play on Gal Ryan's voice cracking at the end of that little pitch to Howard Dean, basically harpooning his own presidential campaign by having his voice crack earlier. After the break, we're going to be joined with some more serious local politicians. So join us after the break.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your special host, Dr. Lance Pearson with the Kentucky Liberty Caucus and the Louisville Tea Party. In this section, we're going to be talking about what I consider probably the most important race of this election season, and that is the U.S. Senate seat that is being vacated by Mitch McConnell at the end of this year. You know, basically, this is going to be the end of Mitch McConnell's political career. He's decided to retire, and there are, I believe, 20 people, I think 11 Republicans and 9 Democrats that have filed in order to try to fill that seat. So in our interest of due diligence, we have had on several of those candidates. We had an interview with Daniel Cameron. Last week we had on Michael Ferris. Today we're going to have a candidate by the name of Nick Shelley, or Andrew Nick Shelley. On your ballot, he is going to be A. Nick Shelley. But we're going to have him on in just a moment. Before we bring him on, I do want to mention that the first debate on the Republican side, so the first Republican primary debate for that U.S. Senate seat, is actually going to be tonight. You will be able to find that on WDRB in the Louisville area. I think they actually have some coverage of this event that's going to happen. It's going to start at 7 and end at 8. There's going to be coverage in the Lexington area, maybe a couple of other cities. I think they got some other affiliates that are going to cover some of that. But this is the first of those debates. The 3 candidates that were invited by the Jefferson County Republican Party in conjunction with WDRB News were Daniel Cameron, Andy Barr, and Nate Morris, and I believe all 3 will be in attendance at this debate. So this is your first chance to really have, in one sitting, the ability to hear from all the candidates on some important issues. Now, that event is going to be at the Henry Clay. I don't actually know if there's any tickets available for that. The Louisville Tea Party is actually going to be hosting a watch party for that event. So if you want to come out and just hang out for free at Rooster's Restaurant in Middletown, that's, I think, 10,430 Middletown Road. Tonight, starting at, roughly 6:30, we generally have a little social hour from 6 to 6:30. 6:30, we'll have some discussion, just some talk about some business items and some bills that are moving. But we're just going to have a group of patriots that are going to get together and listen to that on WDRB. And so if you'd like to join us, feel free. They have great food at Roosters, and it's a great establishment. So I encourage you to go ahead and grab some food there, make an order there, and join some patriots as they watch this debate. Now, we are going to have on, and our producer, I don't think we have video of Nick, but we're going to be able to hear him over audio, so that probably won't make any difference for our 970 AM listeners. But Nick Shelley is in this race. I consider him probably the fifth or sixth candidate at this point in terms of likelihood to win that race. Who knows, though? You know, somebody has a scandal or he really catches fire. Maybe his chances go up. But we wanted to give a voice since this is what I consider to be the most important race of this election season. So, Nick Shelley, if we have him, we have his audio. Would you just like to announce your candidacy, basically, and just tell us a little bit of why you were interested in running for this race?
Yes, I'm Nick Shelley, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I really got interested in this race a long time ago. I mean, Mitch McConnell's held this position for about as long as I've been alive. And I see that this is a turning point in which direction we go, especially the Republican Party in the future. Do we hold on to the old, go to the new, or does the Republican Party in this state divide and go separate ways? And who knows?
Yep.
I'm a resident of Kentucky, is born here. I'm actually seventh generation Kentuckian on one side of my family. Grew up in a small family business. I know what the principles are of having a small family business and how hard it is to keep family businesses running, especially third going into fourth generation. We had farm here in this area. We were in this area before this is even a state, but that doesn't make me any more American than the guy that got his citizenship last week, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And being American is an ideology of wanting to do better for yourself and work for common good of the people, and I stand for that. So like you said yourself, I'm fifth or sixth, maybe just a Hail Mary of winning this. But that's why I got into it. I want to prove a point that it's not about the money.
Yeah.
It's about the voice for the people. And I think that you look at people like Daniel Cameron, I mean, I admire the man. He's very faithful, but I just worried he could be bought. And you have Andy Barrett runs and been sixth generation Kentuckian, but what has he done actually for Kentucky since he's been in there? He ran on wanting to be term limits and not just spending a bunch of money. But have you seen every time there's been a spending bill for him, he's voted for it.
Yeah.
And you got Nate Morris, that he's a businessman. He came from nothing, made something himself. I'm happy for him, and it's great. But I think he's losing roots of where he came from. I mean, he's accepted $10 million from outside source, just one alone. And we can't sell this voice out. This is Kentucky's voice. And in this race, I've met some people along the way, and I really like Michael Ferris. I mean, I may be running against him, but I consider him a brother in this race. I mean, he stands on his values like I do. Great man. Me and him have a lot of the same principles. And if I wasn't already running this race, I'd support him fully. I don't back down. I don't give up.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
you're similar outsider candidates for sure, running grassroots campaigns. So just tell me a little bit more about yourself. What's your employment background? What's your experience? You were actually a government linguist or a contractor for the government doing linguistics work, which is very unusual background. So tell me a little bit about that.
I got recruited in that position. I right out of high school, I started going Marine Corps. Family taught me to go to college, and I got recruited out of that from language ability and sent to where I could teach different classes and take classes too. And I became a linguistic contractor because you can make money easier that way and have more leeway, but not actually be a military. And my main job was to recruit translators overseas because based on their abilities to attain the English language and to translate in real time, which is a vital resource. You could take an average American that has no desire to learn a second, third, fourth language. And even at that, even my ability to speak foreign languages, there's slang words in different areas I just don't know, and you can't pick up on that quickly.
Yeah.
And it's cheaper to find somebody there as
and
well.
That allowed you to travel the world a little bit. Now you're back in Kentucky, and you still do some contracting work there. But what do you do now while you're here in Kentucky?
Like I said, I'm fourth generation technically of a business. We had a farm supply business, and now we're kind of slowing down on that. My dad still runs a country store we've had since the 50s, but I'm a dump truck driver. I help build roads, mostly log roads, farm roads, and I'm a farmer. I have cattle, about 300 head of cattle, and do about 1,000 acres of corn or soybeans. I'll probably back off in this year because of fuel prices. We're getting choked. The farmers in this state and this country are getting choked in every direction. And we haven't had a farm bill in a long time. That's another thing that I want to run on. We have to support the farmers, and no person is more important than the other. But we all have to find ways to work together for the common good. And we've lost that. We've lost what being a true American really is.
Absolutely. All right. So go ahead and tell me about some more ideas. You just talked a little bit about some affordability issues. Do you have anything else on that topic? And then what are some other priorities? If you were to get elected to this position, what are some of the things that you would push for as a U.S. Senator?
I would want to focus on America first. And that's not one party, one side. I mean, we have to find ways to make the cost of living more affordable for the average American. And people, especially on the right, want to try to put down people for getting handouts. I mean, these are intended to be hand-ups. Yeah. We need to find ways to where these can be facilitated, where they're not punished for trying to do better. There's people on benefits that are afraid to lose them because they get a job, and before they can get stable, they've lost their footing. I mean, we got to find ways to make these programs better, and we got to find ways to facilitate their desire to attain a job without losing while they're transitioning. And the farmers themselves, we got to find ways to protect farmland. We're losing it. It's a vital resource when it's lost to housing or data centers or whatever. It's gone. We got to protect those, and we got to protect these farmers. I mean, we're getting lower and lower on the amount of farmers there actually is, and that affects all of us. The price of food will go up along with it, and we can't import everything in this country. And Donald Trump says he's for the farmer, but yet he goes to Argentina and gives them $40 billion and tries to bring their beef in. And people think that the farmers are making the money. We have to find ways to facilitate making more processing plants, and even if it's grant purposes, to make it more competitive. I mean, it's all got down with a few processors.
Right. Okay, I think those are all great ideas. We've actually had discussions on a lot of those topics, so I'm right there with you on a lot of those issues. Okay, we don't have a ton of time left in this segment, but why don't you give our listeners, where do they go if they want to find out more about your campaign, or I don't know, maybe even give a little bit to your campaign? But I know you haven't been really soliciting. You haven't been soliciting any assistance. Where do they go to find out more?
And go to Ballotpedia. I have a small Facebook page. It's Nick Shelley for the Senate race. I don't accept money. I have invested heavily in Bitcoin in the past. I could finance this if I wanted to. But I want people to search for themselves of what's important to them and vote for the person that's best suited for Kentucky, not an outside resource.
Yep. Okay. So if you want to find out more, go to Nicholas Shelley on Facebook. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your special host, Dr. Lance Pearson with the Kentucky Liberty Caucus and the Louisville Tea Party. If you joined us earlier in the show, you just heard from Nick Shelley, or on the ballot he will appear as A. Nick Shelley for Andrew. But Andrew Nick Shelley, who is a candidate for U.S. Senate, tonight's first U.S. Senate Republican primary debate will be on WDRB. I think that's Channel 9, at least on my TV. But that will be at 7 p.m. If you want to come out and listen with a bunch of patriots and just generally conservative people, you can come out to the back room at Roosters in Middletown on Shelbyville Road. That's, I think, 10430 Middletown Road, on Shelbyville Road in Middletown. And so just come out and order some food and just enjoy listening to the debate and getting involved in civic education with some other patriots tonight. So that actual TV show will start at 7. We'll probably start those festivities at Roosters at 6:30. Okay, Andrew Shelley, if you want to find out more about him as a candidate, you can go to his Facebook page, Nicholas, just like St. Nicholas, Nicholas Shelley. That's got 2 L's, Shelley. You can find that on Facebook. Join him, and he'll post a little bit about what his platform is. And I want to remind everyone, if you want to find that, you can go on YouTube, and after a few hours, we'll have some of those videos up so that you can go back and listen to this if you missed it. Okay, our next guest, and the guest that I hope she can join us for the rest of the show, is one of my favorite state senators. She's actually my state senator, and that is Lindsay Titchener. Lindsay Titchener represents Senate District 6. She will be on the general election ballot, as she does have 2 Democrat opponents, but no Republicans were ridiculous enough to challenge her, fortunately. So if we can bring her on. Lindsay, how are you? Great to see you.
I'm good. Good. Thank you.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me on.
Yep. You can go on Facebook and find her as well, Senator Lindsay Titchener. That's District 6. You also have a web page, right? We usually pitch these at the end, and then I forget. So let's just go ahead and pitch it right up front.
Yeah, TitchenerforKentucky.com.
And that's the number 4, right?
No, it's F-O-R. It's spelled out.
Titchener.
I know, it's tricky.
Yep. T-I-C-H-E-N-O-R, F-O-R, and K-Y, or Kentucky?
I think either one will get you there.
Okay. .com. All right. So go ahead and go there. Support her election. That could actually be somewhat competitive in the general election. I know you're taking that seriously.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thanks for joining us. I really wanted to bring you on to just kind of get an update from the legislature. What does it look like? We're about 3/4 of the way through in the session. So just how have things gone? Have they been up to expectations or below expectations? I don't know what your expectations were. So just basically, it's a very open-ended question. Just tell us a little bit about what's gone on. We'll get into some specific bills after this. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's budget year. So we have 60 days as opposed to our 30 days. I do enjoy this session, 60 days, because you really can get active and stay active. In that 30-day session, we're in and out, and it's weird and kind of broken up. So this one, you can really hone in and focus on stuff. But at the same time, it's does tend to draw on, and we get very exhausted because we're here every day, and some very early mornings, some very late nights. And now the budget process is on the Senate side, and I believe we're close to introducing our budget and moving that out of the Senate and sending it back over to the House. So a lot of digging in. It's a big piece of legislation, and we're working on the road funding, and that's another big piece of legislation. So a lot to follow. And then at the same time, we have issues that we want to address and work on, and we're working on that. Every senator has their own agenda that they're working on, and trying to push legislation through at the same time of making sure we get a good budget, a good working budget for our government out. So it's a busy time for sure. And you never the sessions never end up the way you expect them to. You go in thinking a lot of things are going to happen that you've been working on, and then they don't, and you die on different hills that you didn't intend to die on, and that's just the way the session rolls every year.
That's right. That's right. All right. Why don't we talk a little bit about some of your, I know one of your big passions is education bills. You actually got a piece of priority legislation this time, so SB 3. It relates to school financing, but most people don't know what the details there are unless you're watching the summer sessions about all the crazy spending that we hear about. So tell us a little bit about what that bill is trying to address, what problem exists, and then how it tries to deal with those.
Yeah, so Senate Bill 3 does a couple of different things, but overall it's about financial transparency. So the first section of the bill deals with the budgeting process, making sure that that's very transparent at school board meetings. The final piece of that, the superintendent has to present that budget publicly in a public meeting. So that's something that we haven't seen in a long time. And it's an opportunity for the public to be involved, to then hold their school board members accountable, get them to ask the right questions so that the superintendent's digging in, the CFOs are digging in. And obviously a lot of that has to do with what happened in Fayette County and what happened in Jefferson County. They have tremendously large budgets. And in the process of their budgeting over the last couple of years, they've come up with massive deficits to the tune of almost $200 million collectively. Right. So looking at, okay, how did we get to a point where a school district could come up with that large of a deficit and the school board not know, the CFO seemed to not know, the superintendent seemed to not know, and how do we hold them accountable and how do we make sure it never happens again? So that's section 1 of the bill. Section 2 is requiring our school districts to post their information, everything that has to do with their financing, the budget, all of their reports that they typically put on the Munis reports, which are public, but you really have to dig to find them. We want them all right on the website so the public can see what's going on and making sure that that money's being spent well. But the most important part of that are the credit card statements in our districts. We have a tremendous amount of waste that we have uncovered over the last couple of months. Actually, this entire year, I had a constituent do an open records request for credit card statements and purchase order receipts, and in that found money just flying everywhere for things that never make it to the classroom. Right. And so we are trying to rein that back in and really feel like if we have transparency and those credit card statements are available for everybody to see, their spending is going to be very different. So that is the hope and the goal with that. Yep.
I think I can't believe this stuff isn't already required, but yes, it seems completely common sense. And has that already made it through the whole process? I know it will. It's SB 3, so there's almost no chance it won't.
I hope that it will.
Yeah.
I hope that it will. Not every priority piece of legislation gets passed. So, but we'll be fighting for this one because we need it. Our schools need it. Our kids need it. Our families need to know their tax money is being used properly. It passed out of the Senate on January 27th. So it's been over in the House and it hasn't had a House committee hearing yet. But these next 10 days are going to be moving very quick.
It's always crazy, right?
It's absolutely insane. So a lot of these bills will move this week from the Senate over in the House.
Okay. So if you want to support that bill, call in to the legislative hotline. I think that's 1-800.
You're going to ask me. I don't know.
Exactly. I know it ends in 7181. We'll bring it on in a second. 1-800-372-7181. There it is. Call in and ask for all representatives to vote for SB 3. All right. A bill that I don't expect is going to move, but I just want you to just briefly, introduce it. You filed a bill to try to eliminate DEI in K through 12 education. That's SB 26. I know you've told me you don't think that's going to move this time. What do you think is the barrier? This seems another common sense thing. Why can't we get this passed in an 80% Republican supermajority? You don't have to single any person out, but what's the problem?
I'll make it simple. It's not moving because I'm not in charge. If I were in charge, it would have moved.
There you go.
How about that? I won't point fingers anywhere except right at me.
Exactly.
No, I think it's a timing thing. Not that we've run out of time. We had plenty of time, but I think it's, do we have the appetite to put our members through another grueling piece of legislation like HB4 from last session?
Okay, we'll talk about it more after the break. Join us as we continue on with Senator Lindsey Tichenor.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your special host, Dr. Lance Pearson, with the Kentucky Liberty Caucus as well as the Louisville Tea Party. We are joined currently with State Senator Lindsey Tichenor. Again, she is up for re-election. She has no primary opponent, but she does have a general in the fall. We don't know who that's going to be because the Democrats have to sort that out. But if you are interested in giving to her campaign, go to Tichenor, Tichenor, 4ky.com, and you can find out her platform and donate if you would like. We were just talking at the very end of our last segment about the Senate Bill 26, basically eliminating DEI from K through 12 education after they somewhat did that for higher education last year with HB4. And that probably isn't going to move this time. And you said that the main reason that you thought was just they didn't want to have all of the, theatrics that comes from the opposition to the bill. That's going to distract from everything that's going on in this busy session.
Well, yeah, and HB4 took a couple of years to move, if you'll recall, and it was grueling. It really was for 2 years to put our members through that. The opposition to ending DEI, and I would argue the longer we go on not eliminating it, the opposition grows because it becomes even more normalized as we move along. But we're seeing such a tremendous loss of funding in our education that's focused on these components of DEI that are truly unconstitutional against the Civil Rights Act. And we keep on letting it happen. And our federal government has already pulled away some $50+ million from our education system in a couple of different districts that were singled out for continuing this practice. And I think we'll continue to see that money be pulled out. And who knows, maybe next session, by the time we get here, they'll have lost so much federal dollars, they'll be asking for it to be removed, or they'll have already removed it, although I seriously doubt that. So we'll keep fighting that issue and probably have another interim discussion on it as we move into the 27 session. Yeah.
Well, we can only hope. And just, I know you're of this mindset as well as I am, but to me, the way that you confront a heckler's veto is you actually push harder. If you allow someone to basically just shout you down, and that's going to keep you from moving forward your priorities, then the only response that you're going to get from the other side is even more of that in the future. So you just basically got to, face down that type of intimidation and move forward with your agenda. All right. SB 181, you passed this bill last year, and it related to communications between staff and students at school. That got universal support, like literally unanimous support in both the Senate and the House, and even Governor Beshear signed it. Then the teachers union basically had a lot of complaints, and with most legislation, there might have been some tweaks that needed to happen. And so talk about some of the changes this year, also named SB 181, that kind of cleans up some of the things. What were the issues that came up that your new bill basically addresses?
Yes, a lot of very specific things. So I'll just do kind of a broad, the broad changes. And this moved out of the Senate in late January as well, and has been over in the House, sitting in their committee on committees. But they passed out a different version. And I will say I do not agree with the version that they sent my way, and I can explain that. So we looked at making sure the definition of family members was as clear as could be, follows the FERPA guidelines that our schools already have to follow, especially in regards to step parents, cousins, brothers and sisters, siblings, and sister-in-laws, things like that. So cleared up the definition of volunteer, making sure that it doesn't necessarily fall for a person who pops in to volunteer during a lunch, and then they're forever locked in under this law. So we cleared that up and made sure it was specific towards people who are volunteering on a very consistent basis, who have very consistent access to students. But yeah, overall, this was widely supported. Anyone who ever talks about the intent of this legislation, they absolutely agree with it. Yeah. And we saw such an uproar with the specifics of implementation in June. And I think it was more preparation for the bill becoming law, and they weren't quite ready, and it fell right around the sports program starting. Right. So there was a lot of that communication that coaches needed to be having, and they just were kind of not sure how to do that properly. So once school got started, it all pretty much died down. We worked on it through the interim, met with all the K education agencies, and worked through a lot of the things that needed to be changed. It did pretty much die down. And I think a lot of the issues were worked out. And even more so, to my point, that the issues were worked out when I passed my bill out, it had an emergency clause on it. And the agencies kind of said, we don't really need an emergency clause anymore. We've kind of got a system going. So whatever you pass, we'll just get it implemented in July, and it'll be fine. So the emergency really died down as people got their system and their policies in place. So that was encouraging.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like that hasn't yet passed, but that seems very likely to pass, right? Some version.
I hope House. My version passes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The House version, what I don't love, it provides the exemption to extend to people who work or volunteer in the school district, and also volunteer or work in a nonprofit or a church setting. And unfortunately, we've seen two recent cases of a coach, also an elder, who just got fired from their position because they were grooming students and then sexually assaulting them. And the same thing happened just last week. A news article popped up, and it was somebody teaching in the schools and then also coaching with a nonprofit. So I think we need to make sure that we're protecting kids all across the board. And I don't think, I think that standard, honestly, for people who are in such direct communication with students, that standard needs to be set pretty high. All right. So that we keep them safe.
So you'll wind up probably negotiating with the House and figuring out some sort of compromise bill or whichever. Another education bill that you filed is SB 318. My understanding is it caps digital instruction to 45 minutes a day for elementary schools. So tell me what problem this is addressing, and what's the likelihood of that passing?
Yeah, this one's not going to move this session. This was to get the conversation started.
Yeah.
This is one of those future bills I really want to work on. We're looking at, since COVID and since the move to one-on-one devices, we have not seen improvement in our education. And when you look at K through 5, those foundational learning skills should not be taught on a device. You can use some limited amount of time to be able to help those skills develop, but really students need explicit instruction. And if they aren't receiving that, we're depending too much on ed tech to teach our kids. We're really just not utilizing our teachers. And most of our teachers came in because they wanted to educate students. We're taking that time away from them, and we're not letting a child's brain fully expand and develop in the education process that history has proven to work so well. So there's a book I'm reading right now, Digital Delusion, that really goes into ed tech history and how it's shaped education and what it's doing to our younger generations. And I think it's a serious conversation we need to have. And I look forward to hopefully discussing this in the interim and maybe moving forward with some changes next session.
Okay. All right, let's break off of education topics, which I know you're passionate about, into some other areas that you file bills. I know you have one that is related to tightening up some of the voter ID requirements. I think that's SB 154. Tell me what that does and like the crazy status of our current election laws. We still have some loopholes that are out there.
Yeah, we've got a couple of loopholes, and that bill passed sometime in early February, I believe, out of the Senate. So it's been over in the House. And, as the sausage is being made, who knows where it's going to end up, or if it's going to pass by itself or end up somewhere else. We'll see. But we have a couple of loopholes. If you do not, we're a loose photo ID voter state, right? So we have a requirement for photo ID that's set by the State Board of Elections. But then if you don't bring your photo ID, you can use a Social Security card, you can use an EBT or a SNAP card. And those obviously are easy to make outside of fraudulently make or reproduce, excuse me. But they don't have photos on it. They don't have a way to really verify who that voter is. So I'm stripping those out so that we are just primarily a photo ID state. Another change that we didn't get to make on this side of the chambers, and hopefully will get made on the other side. There's basically a familiarity exemption. So if the person working in the election says, "Oh yeah, I know him," then they don't need to show any ID. Right. So we're going to try to get that struck out as well, and just really be a strict photo ID state. And of course, this is a very popular photo ID is very popular across the United States among all demographics, all parties, and it's just something simple. And I don't see why we wouldn't want to have the strongest photo ID laws that we can. So that's the goal of 154.
Absolutely. And this actually is piggybacks on a theme that I have, and that's if you're going to fix something, go ahead and do it all at once. And it just feels like we've had these sorts of bills that have come out. I don't know. Even when Adrienne Southworth was in the Senate, she would file these bills every year. They'd get hearings, and it was like changing one little part. I'm just like, get rid of everything that is a non-photo ID and get rid of every other type of loophole. If you want to vote, have your photo ID with you. If not, it was a bad day today, and you just don't vote. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
So
I agree. We make little tweaks, little adjustments here and there. I'm probably more along your lines. Let's fix it for now and for good, so we don't have to do it every year. But
that's right. Pull the Band-Aid off. Okay. After the break, we've got about 40 seconds left. After the break, we'll talk a little bit about data centers. You have a bill on that, but we'll also talk about some legislation that's come through the Senate that you had some interesting critiques of. And so join us after the break as we talk about some other legislation in our last segment with Senator Lindsey Titchener. You're listening to Kentucky's Voice with Dr. Lance Pearson. If you want to quickly text in and we'll try to incorporate your comments, you can do that at 502-571-0970. We are Kentucky's Voice, kyvoice.org.
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your special host, Dr. Lance Pearson with the Kentucky Liberty Caucus and the Louisville Tea Party. Remember, tonight is the first debate for the United States Senate Republican primary, which will feature Daniel Cameron, Andy Barr, and Nate Morris. That is being moderated by the Jefferson County Republican Party. It will be on WDRB News, which for me, I think is Channel 9 on Spectrum, and it might be different for you. If you would like to come out and watch with another group of patriots, feel free to do that at Roosters in Middletown, 10,430 Shelbyville Road. Just come out at about 6:30, order some food, and just enjoy watching it with a bunch of people. All right. We're joined again by Senator Lindsay Titchener. She represents District 6, which is basically northeast Jefferson County, kind of Prospect type area, maybe Indian Hills a little bit, but then Oldham and then Trimble County. So let's just pick up where we were. We were just talking about voter ID. You also have another bill that I think is a little bit like that. That's SB 123. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what that does in terms of getting licenses?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. It just would require our permitting and driver's license tests to be in English. Right now, we offer it in 22 different languages.
Yeah.
So the idea, just kind of watching some of these horrific stories of people who aren't able to speak English, having driver's licenses. And of course, we're selling driver's licenses here in Kentucky, or at least they were. With the Kentucky Department of Transportation, they have an ongoing case and investigation right now in regard to illegals getting driver's licenses. So, when I started to dig into this and I saw that we have 22 available languages, English, of course, being one of those, I thought this is absolutely insane. Why are our road signs are in English? Yeah. If you have an emergency, you won't be able to communicate with first responders who come on the scene. And it's just seems like common sense that that we would have English as the primary language. And we made a change in Kentucky for CDL licenses, and the federal government has as well, to make sure that that's in English. So I think it just lines things up and makes sure we're prioritizing people assimilating into our state and able to speak the language.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think for me, the key common sense thing is the road signs are in English. So it would pay for you to be able to actually understand the traffic signs.
Absolutely. And two, one of the things this ties into English, I sat on a commission on race and access to opportunity this interim. It was my first interim session sitting on that. And they brought in Warren County schools to talk about their large number of incomers who do not speak English, who are here under refugee status or whatever. And they have so many languages represented. Jefferson County is the same way. It's over 100 different languages in their schools. So this is going to prioritize students learning English in that K through 12 setting and making sure that they're absolutely able to speak the language, and that will help our tests as well. Because when we look at measuring our scores in Jefferson County Public Schools, for instance, who has a large English learning population, they often say our tests are bad because we have so many non-English speakers and they're required after 2 years to take the test. So let's absolutely, after 2 years, make sure that they are fluent in the English language. We're going to see our test scores go up and JCPS, and remove that excuse for them when they say our test scores are bad. We're going to see our test scores hopefully go up, and then we're going to have safe roadways too.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, next topic. You're passionate about data centers and we don't have to go through all the dramatics in Oldham County. You live in Oldham, and so do I. But data centers is kind of a hot topic in various areas. I know Mason County, Mercer County. I think there's going to probably be some proposals in Southeast Kentucky. So you filed a bill that relates to data centers to basically make sure that we have the right regulations in place across the state if we're going to, delve into this. I mean, let's face it, this is where a lot of investment is happening. So if we could get the regulations right to allow data centers in certain places, that would be an economic benefit to the state, but we do need those regulations in place. So what does your bill, SB 319, do, and which parts of it do you think might actually make it into other bills this session?
So it's pretty tailored to just a few things. If I were to really file what I wanted, I would have done a moratorium so that we could get all of these regulations in place in our counties. What we saw in Oldham County was that our planning and zoning just plainly wasn't ready. No one was. No one is still. And they're trying to grapple with what definitions they should use and create their setbacks and all of that stuff. So if the state could help in some way to put a standard across the board, that would be awesome. So that was what I was tailoring this bill to make sure we have a definition for hyperscale data centers so that they can be put in the correct place and they're not just being designated as, a light industrial, which they clearly aren't because they're so massive and they do require so much power. I'm looking at some environmental issues. Originally in the bill, I had that there would be no non-disclosure agreements signed with government agencies, which I'm a firm believer. I don't think that we should do that. I think our government agencies should absolutely be open to the public. I knew, of course, that would not move. So I just went ahead and took it out of my draft before I filed it. So really just making sure we're helping our counties have some definitions in place. One of the most important parts of the bill, I think, is the decommissioning process. We did that with the solar panels, which I hate those things. I think they're absolutely ridiculous. We put in some decommissioning guidelines so that hopefully our land could be returned back to its previous use where these solar panels were put up. And the same, I would hope, as we look at your guest that was on earlier talking about our farmers and our agricultural land, we are needing large amounts of land for these hyperscale data centers. You're looking at hundreds to thousands of acres that are being talked about, negotiated across the state right now. What's going to happen when technology advances, which it absolutely does. History has proven that it has. I mean, we all know we have the computer we have on our phone used to take up an office building, right? And now it sits in the palm of our hand. What happens when that huge hyperscale data center now shrinks down and we don't need the space that that we need currently, what do we do with those giant buildings, with those huge diesel tanks that they have to have on site in case the power goes out? So really looking at how do we decommission this process in, say 10, 15, 20 years when those buildings aren't needed anymore. Right.
And in the case of hyperscale data centers, we're not going to be able to return that to farmland, but how do we return it to something that isn't just gigantic warehouse spaces that can be filled with nothing? Like there's nothing else that's going to be able to be used, and they'll just be blights on the community for 50 years or 100 years.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Let's talk about two pieces of what I consider hot legislation right now. One of these, and we actually didn't mention this earlier, but Steve Doan offered an amendment to a bill. Let me find the bill number. HB 643. So a bill was filed by Kevin Jackson, and what this bill did was it set a process of approving a panic alert system for schools. And so it would allow like 10% of a budget to be dedicated to some sort of button system that teachers could have, that they could silently alert the police to come out rather than having to make a phone call, for example. And so what Steve Doan said was, well, the best panic alert system would be having someone with a firearm on site so that you don't have to call in or button press into the local police, so that 6 minutes later, after a school shooter enters, you get a police response. So anyway, I haven't actually got your thoughts on this. To me, this is the most common sense way to deal with school security. We can put up all kinds of metal detectors or anything else, but the only reliable way to stop an insane person with a gun trying to kill people is to have someone there that is a good person that has a firearm in order to confront them. So what are your thoughts on that? And it's fine if you oppose it. We didn't really discuss this.
I agree 100%. I agree 100%. I think that was the goal with the SROs, that we would have an armed security officer at every single school, but we don't see it. It's not happening. We don't have them at every school. We have them on every campus, out here in Oldham County, but that's not enough. Campus,
that might be 6 schools.
Middle school might be, and they're quite far away from each other. So I don't think it's a bad idea at all. I believe I believe Texas has similar laws in place, and you don't see school shootings in Texas. They'll take down a school shooter real quick. And I think our school educators, I don't know if it needs to be somebody who's anonymous. I've often thought we just need somebody in the building. And a couple of years ago, actually, I had an amendment on the SRO bill that they had to post a sign outside that said, someone in this building is armed.
Yeah, that's
according to KRS, come enter at your own risk, basically.
Exactly.
Somebody's going to take you down.
It's kind of like beware of dog.
Absolutely. Beware of dog. Beware of someone armed inside. And, you look at our government buildings, you can't come in here with, we're armed. We've got security. We've got protection. Why would our kids not need protection? They're sitting ducks.
100%. If people want to support that is you call into that number, 1-800-372-7181, and you tell them that I want you to support House Floor Amendment 1 to HB 643. All right, the last bill I would love to talk about is SB 199. This relates to pesticides, herbicides, anything with the word "side" at the very end, apparently, relates to this bill. And what this bill does is it basically gives immunity from failure to warn for the companies that make all of these chemicals. So just tell me a little bit about that bill and why you're opposed to it.
Yeah, well, for one, when you look at a side, anything that ends in side, that means death. It's intent to kill things, right? It's killing weeds. It's killing, look at suicide, homicide, all of those. The point is to kill something. So pesticides, herbicides, that's the goal. So how much of that over time in our bodies is doing the same thing to us? Right. And how do we have any type of recourse if there are unknown illnesses that pop up? And we are in this bill essentially providing immunity for the manufacturers of every one of those that fall under that umbrella of pesticide. And that's not right. And we've done it before, and argued against it before, and I argue against this one as well.
Right. And you tied it in with the vaccine immunity that we gave to universities. I think that the general idea here is that in order to have production agriculture in Kentucky, we really do need to have some of these chemicals. But if any of these companies are falsifying records or committing fraud and hiding the danger from people, they need to be held legally responsible. And we don't need to be giving them immunity if they have engaged in that. Okay, thank you to Lindsay Titchener. Remember, Titchener4ky.com. And you've been listening to Kentucky's Voice.